All right, in this Aembit Vibes video, we're going to show you how we trust and verify the identity of a client trying to make an API call. All right, let's go to the Aembit portal and check out what we can configure as for trust providers. I have 3 configured already. We're going to use a couple of these in the demo, but let me show you what options we have. So I go to New. So you can see we have some for AWS, for Azure, for GCP, GitHub, GitLab, Kerberos for on-prem, Kubernetes, and Terraform. And if I go into these a little bit more, if I look at AWS, these are the attributes you can match on for the AWS role. If I look at things like AWS metadata service, there's many more options to match on. Okay, and you can add multiple of these. It's not just one. So it's really a multi-factor attestation of the system. So you can, some might say like some of these may be cloned, but you can't clone all of these. And you can continue to add many, many things to be very specific about the system. And you can also add certificates to add another factor of attestation. Okay. So as mentioned, I have 2 of these that I'm going to be using in the demo. First, I'm going to show you the behavior when the attestation fails. Okay, so this is my Kubernetes system. I have Kubernetes running in Docker, and I'm going to try to make a call to Microsoft Graph. And this will typically work. I'm going to go back and reconfigure this to show you that it works, but I'm going to also show you the logs. So I try to run it the first time. It fails, and I know why it failed. I actually made some modifications here. So I'm going to go in and edit my policy and remove this _bad. And then I'm going to run it again, and then we'll look at the logs, the valid logs, and then when it actually fails. So now that I removed the bad from what I was checking against, okay, now that I've modified it to remove the _bad, if I go and try to run the same command, you can see it works now. Now let's check out the same functionality for GitLab. So if I go here to my pipelines, I'm going to say new pipeline, and I'm going to say run. This one takes a little bit longer, so I'm going to fast forward the video. Okay, here you can see that we actually failed, and then we got a failure, unable to authenticate Aembit Cloud. Okay, and this is happening because the attestation is failing, and the attestation is failing because I've also modified the match rules here to include this bad. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that and say save. All right, and then we're going to go and try this again. So I can actually just run this from here. So I retry this job. And we won't wait for the whole job to complete, but you'll see that it'll get past the test, and then it'll do the rest of it later. Okay, you can see a minute, 22 seconds later, we did get a pass for this pipeline once I changed it back. So now let's go look at the logs. First, we'll look at the GitLab logs. Okay, this is when attestation failed. And over here, you can see that we queried GitLab for the project path. And the project path that I have in GitLab is the Aembit Azure Aembit demo. And I had set it up so that it had the bad. And since, of course, it doesn't match, it's not getting the value that I expect from GitLab, the attestation failed. Now, when we go look at the trust provider authentication for the same GitLab trust provider, you can see that it passed successfully. So what we expected and what GitLab actually sent us was the same. So we're good. Now let's go look at the trust provider on the Kubernetes side. So here is the one that failed. If I scroll down here, when we get to trust provider, you can see that the match rule failed. The expected value wasn't the default. Well, the actual value was default, but the policy that I had was default _ bad because I wanted to get this thing to fail. And you can see that it failed. And, that call didn't get through, even though everything else was correct. But as long as attestation fails or a conditional access fails, it doesn't inject credentials. Aembit doesn't inject the credentials, and it doesn't go through. If I look at this last call that happened, this was when we updated so that it actually worked correctly. What you'll see is that we were able to do the attestation with my Kubernetes cluster. Everything else was verified. We retrieved the credentials, injected it. That's why the call went through. So with attestation, it's not just trusting, saying, hey, this system is what I think it is or who I think it is. It's actually checking all sorts of possible variables, factors, before it allows the credential to be injected and the call to be completed successfully. To learn more, please visit ambit.io.